Okay, so I'm going to make a response to the why gender equality is good for everyone, men included, TED talk from Michael Kimmel. Now, I have made a long reply, but it's almost an hour long. It's a little less than an hour long. And I'm afraid not everyone will see it, which I can't blame. I mean, I can understand people not wanting to watch an hour talk, which is kind of weird because his original post was only 15 minutes, but there was so much wrong with it. There was so much not true about it. It's not that it's wrong, but I mean, I seriously cannot understand how this ever became a TED talk. I mean, this should have been a TEDx talk, and even then. But oh well. It may seem very much as if I'm against gender equality. It's not. This is not about gender equality. This is about feminism. And Mr. Kimmel seems to think all men need to become feminists. I personally disagree with that, obviously. I will take a few excerpts out of the long version I've made and put them in here. Maybe to wet your beak. Maybe to show what this is about. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for looking at it. And I know this is something I usually say in the end, but I'm saying it now up front. I am very interested in your criticism. So, thank you.
I'm here to recruit men to support gender equality. Wait, what? What do men have to do with gender equality? Gender equality is about women, right? I mean, the word women, the word gender is about women.
It's a good thing to hear you want to talk about gender equality, and it's a good thing that you try to get men to be more active in this. I mean, MRAs have been trying to make that happen for a long time, but most men just don't seem to be that into it. But I'm sorry, at your opening speech you already show your bias, because no one thinks the word gender means women. The word you probably wanted to use but chose against, wisely, is the word feminism. And feminism is also not about equality. Look it up.
It was a conversation between two women. One of the women was white, and one was black. And the white woman said, this is going to sound very anachronistic now, the white woman said, all women face the same oppression as women. All women are similarly situated in patriarchy, and therefore, all women have a kind of intuitive solidarity or sisterhood. And the black woman said, I'm not so sure. Let me ask you a question. So the black woman says to the white woman, when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, what do you see? And the white woman said, I see a woman. And the black woman said, you see, that's the problem for me. Because when I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, she said, I see a black woman. To me, race is visible. But to you, race is invisible. You don't see it. And then she said something really startling. She said, that's how privilege works. Privilege is invisible to those who have it. It is a luxury, I will say, to the white people sitting in this room, not to have to think about race every split second of our lives. Privilege is invisible to those who have it.
Okay, I cut a little bit out of the original movie, and I'm going to respond to this part. What we see here, according to his testimony, is the birth of intersectionality. And what we clearly see, intersectionality is born out of racism, and not because the white woman doesn't see race, but because the black woman does. I mean, anyone spotting the double standard in this one? So, I'm not allowed to say that I'm racist because I'm white, and you are allowed to say I'm racist because I'm white. This is pretty stupid. And he continues on how he saw himself as a human, but because of this interaction he saw himself as a white man. This is what racism does. Now, will there be racists? Yeah. There are white racists, no doubt. but there are black racists too. I wonder how many black people in Nigeria feel that they are being oppressed by the white privilege. Or in, you know what? No, I'm sidetracking. I'm stopping my thought train here. But you get the gist, I guess.
I have a colleague, and she and I both teach the sociology of gender course on alternate semesters. So she gives a guest lecture for me when I teach. I give a guest lecture for her when she teaches. So I walk into her class to give a guest lecture, about 300 students in the room. And as I walk in, one of the students looks up and says, "Oh, finally, an objective opinion." All that semester, whenever my colleague opened her mouth, what my students saw was a woman. I mean, if you were to say to my students, there is structural inequality based on gender in the United States, they'd say, well, of course you'd say that. You're a woman. You're biased. When I say it, they go, wow, is that interesting? Is that going to be on the test? How do you spell structural?
Yep, another cut. And again, I thought I'd take a little bit out of the movie of him to respond to. Dude, I'm sorry, but either your colleague, whether she's a woman or a man, I don't care. In this case, she is a woman, but whether she is means nothing, is a bad teacher. I'm sorry, if she is standing in front of a class that wants to be educated on gender issues, and they are not taking her serious, it's not because she's a woman, because that's the reason they're there to begin with. Because they want to believe that women have it bad. Now, if a woman standing in front of a class of people who want to study gender issues cannot convince their students of what they want to hear, sorry, you're a bad teacher. No two ways about it.
There's another group, though, that actively resists gender equality, that sees gender equality as something that is detrimental to men. I was on a TV talk show opposite 4 white men. This is the beginning of the book I wrote, Angry White Men. These were 4 angry white men who believed that they, white men in America, were the victims of reverse discrimination in the workplace. And they all told stories about how they were qualified for jobs, qualified for promotions. They didn't get them. They were really angry. And the reason I'm telling you this is I want you to hear the title of this particular show. It was a quote from one of the men. And the quote was, "A black woman stole my job." And they all told their stories, qualified for jobs, qualified for promotions, didn't get it, really angry. And then it was my turn to speak. And I said, I have just one question for you guys. And it's about the title of the show. A black woman stole my job. Actually, it's about one word in the title. I want to know about the word my. Where did you get the idea it was your job?
I felt to put this in because, in a way, I agree with you, partly. And the part I agree with is indeed the word my. Because if you apply for a job, the job is not yours yet. So if someone else gets the job, he did not get your job, he got the job. You didn't get the job, therefore it's not your job. But having said that, I also have to agree with these white men. I haven't spoken to them, I haven't really heard their story, but there was this thing, and actually there still is, that's discriminating against white, well, not just white men, but men in general, because women seem to be preferred over men in certain jobs. And there is indeed discrimination. It's called affirmative action or positive discrimination. And why is it there? Well, because certain groups are disenfranchised and they need more support. Okay, but if you're going to give something to someone, the thing you're going to give needs to come from somewhere. So if you're going to say, okay, we're going to give black women a better chance on the job market than white men, then those white men are right. You are discriminating against them. Whether it's justified or not is a completely different story. But you cannot deny that this is what they perceive to happen. Because it happens.
So let me be very clear. White men, in Europe and the United States are the beneficiaries of the single greatest affirmative action program in the history of the world. It is called the history of the world.
No, white history is not evidence of white privilege, especially because during white history, most of the people dying were white, and they were men, by the way. I mean, yes, women died too, obviously, but when it came to wars, war is a man's job, not because men want to do the job, but because everyone recognizes that women shouldn't do the job, nor children, actually. So when it comes to dying for a cause, it's men that do the dying. The phrase women and children first, to save them off a sinking ship, for example, is not coined by feminists, it's coined by society. And of course, there were plenty of men who did not agree with it, but on average, men did. So I'm sorry, this is again a lot of manure. Well, the rest of the movie continues about how he feels men are to blame and men should do more for equality, even though they are less equal than women. The last bit I add, by the way, there are more laws protecting women than there are laws protecting men. And when it comes to laws, if a man commits murder, he's sent to jail for a long time, and justly so. But if a woman commits murder, very often she's not punished, or if she is punished, then it's often up to a third of what a man would get for the same crime. So our society is still very female-centric, not male-centric. People on average, men on average, uh, want to defend women, and women on average don't really care that much. But feminism on average tries to exploit this small thing. This, for example, is beautifully displayed when a man and a woman walk in a random European or American city and they get into a fight. If the man hits the woman, bystanders will react and will interfere. If the woman hits the man, bystanders will also react, but they will not interfere. They'll just mock the man. So I'm sorry, if you want equality, I'm 100% for it. I really, really am. But feminist narrative does not give equality. Feminist narrative has, since it started, created inequality. They are trying to take away rights from men, and they try to give them to themselves by playing the victim card. And you, Mr. Kimmel, are playing right in their hand. If you were black, I'd call you Tom, but that's okay, isn't it? I mean, who cares? Anyway, this is the short version of me reacting to Mr. Kimmel's TEDx speak on TED. I still don't understand how it became a TED speak. It should have been a TEDx, but fair enough. I hope you enjoy it. I do appreciate criticism, so if you have anything that you disagree with or any questions you have, please drop them down below. I will try to respond to them. And there is a long version. It's of course different than this one. I made the long version first. And yes, I know there are still holes in what I did and did not put in there. But then again, I do like to leave options open for people to discuss, same as here. If you like this one and you are more interested in the long version, then I would appreciate it if you look at the long version too. But then again, the long version is what, 45 to an hour, so I can understand if you don't. Thank you for your time, and as always, as I said earlier, criticism is welcome.